If your nightmares had a soundtrack, they'd sound like this. The headmaster roars, sending guards after Jason Gregory, Kanye West and Jackson Gregory. His orders are clear. Jason must die. The others thrown into a pitch-black room, no food, no water. The next game awaits. As the 5 guards receive their orders, they immediately set out, their heavy boots echoing through the dimly lit hallways of the facility. The headmaster's voice still lingers in their ears, his rage unmistakable. Find them, kill Jason Gregory, and make sure Kanye West and Jackson Gregory suffer. The guards split into teams, methodically searching every corridor, every room, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Meanwhile, Jason, Kanye and Jackson are already on the move, sensing the danger closing in. Jason grips a makeshift weapon, a rusted pipe, knowing that escape is unlikely, but he refuses to go down without a fight. Suddenly the silence shatters as the guards storm into the room where they're hiding. Chaos erupts. Jason swings the pipe, cracking one guard across the skull, but another drives a baton into his ribs. A gunshot rings out. Jason stumbles back, a red stain spreading across his shirt. He collapses, his breath shallow, his vision fading. Kanye and Jackson, still reeling from the brutal scene, are seized by 2 guards. "You're coming with us," one snarls, dragging them down the cold steel hallways. Their struggles are useless, the guards are too strong. They're thrown into a pitch-black room, the heavy door slamming shut behind them. The only sound is their own breathing, uneven and panicked. No light, no food, no water. Then a speaker crackles to life. The headmaster's voice slithers through the darkness. "Enjoy the silence. The next game begins soon, and I promise it will be your last." Jason Gregory stood defiantly, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths as the guards surrounded him, their weapons trained on his every move. Blood dripped from the cut on his lip, but he refused to show fear. He had fought hard, knocking out 2 guards before they finally overpowered him. Now there was no escape. Kanye West and Jackson Gregory were forced to their knees, their hands bound behind their backs. "Jason!" Jackson struggled against his restraints, his voice filled with panic. Kanye's face was grim, his jaw clenched as he stared at the headmaster, standing just beyond the circle of armed guards. The headmaster stepped forward, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Jason Gregory, the fighter, the troublemaker, you thought you could win?" He let out a cold chuckle. "You were never meant to survive." Jason spat blood onto the floor and grinned, despite the pain. "If I was going to go down, I at least made you work for it." The headmaster's eyes darkened. He gave a slow nod, and one of the guards stepped forward, raising his gun. "No!" Jackson screamed, his body jerking forward, but the guards held him in place. Kanye's eyes widened in horror. "Don't do this, man! You ain't got to do this!" Jason turned his head slightly, locking eyes with his best friend and his brother. His smile softened. "Stay strong," he said. "Don't let them break you." The gunshot shattered the air. Jackson's scream echoed through the room as Jason's body jolted backward, blood spraying onto the cold concrete. His eyes, once full of fire, dulled as he collapsed onto the floor, unmoving. Kanye let out a ragged breath, his body frozen in shock. His best friend, the one person who had always been there, was gone. Jackson thrashed wildly, his voice raw. "You bastards, I'll kill every single one of you!" The headmaster watched for a moment, taking in their anguish, then gestured to the guards. "Take them, lock them away. Let them sit in the dark and think about what they've lost." 2 guards grabbed Kanye and Jackson, dragging them away, their feet scraping against the blood-soaked floor. Jason Gregory's lifeless body remained where it fell. Jackson Gregory pounded against the cold metal door, his fists aching from the effort. "Let us out, you cowards!" he shouted, his voice echoing in the suffocating darkness. Kanye West sat in the corner, his back against the wall, breathing heavily. The air was stale, thick with the scent of sweat and fear. Jason Gregory was dead. The thought lingered like a ghost in Jackson's mind. His brother was gone, murdered in cold blood, and now he and Kanye were left to rot in this black void, waiting for whatever nightmare the headmaster had planned next. The speaker in the ceiling crackled again. The headmaster's voice slithered through the darkness, dripping with cruel amusement. "I hope you're getting comfortable, gentlemen. You won't be leaving that room until I decide it's time. No food, no water, just silence. I wonder how long you'll last. A loud clunk echoed from the ceiling. A single drop of water dripped down, splashing onto the floor. Then another. But it wasn't water. The air filled with a putrid metallic scent. Blood. Jackson swallowed hard. "This isn't just a holding cell," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's a grave." Kanye's hands clenched into fists. "Nah, man, we're not dying in here." The cold, hard floor beneath Jason Gregory's body was already stained with his blood. His lifeless eyes stared at nothing, frozen in time. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and death, but the sound that filled the room was far worse. Jackson's screams. "You mother... I'll kill you! I'll rip you apart!" Jackson thrashed violently, his entire body shaking with rage and grief. The guards held him down, their grips tightening as he fought like a wild animal. Kanye West sat in stunned silence, his head bowed. His best friend was gone, just like that. No last-minute rescue, no way to save him. He had watched Jason die right in front of him, and he could still hear his voice. "Stay strong. Don't let them break you." But how could they not be broken now? The headmaster stepped forward, his boots clicking against the blood-slick floor. He knelt beside Jason's corpse and nudged it with the tip of his shoe, as if he were nothing more than a piece of trash. "A shame," the headmaster said with mock sorrow. "He could have been useful, but defiance has a price." Jackson snapped his head toward him, his face twisted with fury. "I swear to God I'm going to kill you!" The headmaster smirked. "Oh, Jackson," he sighed. "You're in no position to make threats." He straightened up and waved a lazy hand at the guards. "Take them, now!" Kanye barely reacted as they grabbed him, his mind still trapped in the moment Jason hit the floor. But Jackson wasn't done fighting. He kicked, spat, and threw himself forward, managing to knock one guard off balance. For a second, just a second, he was free. Crack! A nightstick slammed into the back of his head, and Jackson collapsed onto his hands and knees, vision spinning. Before he could recover, two guards lifted him by the arms and dragged him toward the exit. As they were pulled away, Jackson's bloodshot eyes locked onto Jason one last time. "I'll avenge you," he whispered, his voice hoarse and broken. Then the doors slammed shut, leaving Kanye West behind. The darkness swallowed Kanye whole. The door had slammed shut minutes ago, maybe hours ago. Time had lost all meaning. Jackson Gregory was gone now, dragged away by the guards, leaving Kanye completely alone in this black void. The room was silent, but Kanye's mind was anything but. It was a whirlwind of rage, grief, and self-hatred. Jason was dead, Jackson was gone, and he was left here, alone. He sat against the wall, his knees pulled up to his chest, his hands still bound behind him. His body ached from the rough treatment, but it was nothing compared to the weight in his chest. The image of Jason falling, blood soaking into the floor, was burned into his skull. The sound of the gunshot echoed in his ears, his best friend gone. A deep breath, then another. Kanye tilted his head back against the cold, damp wall. He couldn't stay like this. He couldn't let them break him. Jason wouldn't want that. Jason fought. Jason stood tall until the end, and now Kanye had to do the same. A small red light flickered in the corner of the room. A security camera. They were watching him, studying him. Kanye exhaled sharply and lifted his head, staring directly into the camera lens. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with something different now. "You think I'm just going to sit here and die?" His voice was low, steady. "Nah, you made a mistake leaving me alive." He leaned forward, his lips curling into a slight smirk despite the pain. "I hope you're ready, 'cause when I get out of here," he chuckled darkly, "I'm burning this whole place to the ground."